The woman picks up a roll of plastic wrap, layer by layer. She wraps it tightly around her face, sealing it so tightly that no air can get through. Then, she presses down on the bottom with her hands. Very quickly, she starts to suffocate, just as she is about to lose consciousness. She can't take it anymore. She frantically rips at the plastic wrap. Finally, she peels it open near her mouth, gasping for fresh air at last. But she didn't do this to harm herself. She did it because her life felt perfect. So perfect that everything around her seemed unreal. Ever since she and her husband moved to this small town, her days had felt dull and repetitive. Every morning, all the women in town waved goodbye to their husbands, and every husband worked as a programmer. The wives, on the other hand, spent their days doing housework or simply enjoying a life of luxury. Lisa found it peaceful, but also unbearably boring. Then one day, something happened, something so bizarre, it made her question everything. That afternoon, Lisa was preparing lunch. She picked up an egg and noticed something was off. It felt a light in her hand. Holding it up to the light, she saw right through it. She squeezed it, and to her shock, it was completely hollow. At first, she thought she just bought a bad batch, but as she cracked one after another, she realized every single egg in the basket was empty. The next day, she went to confront the store, but on her way there, she saw something terrifying. A plane was falling from the sky. She tried to warn the taxi driver, but it just kept repeating, "I can only follow the assigned route." He sounded less like a man and more like a machine. Frustrated, Lisa got out and continued on foot. She walked for what felt like hours, until she reached a strange, elevated platform. She looked around, but there was no sign of a crashed plane. Instead, in the distance, she saw a massive circular building. It was the same place where all the town's men worked. Curious, she stepped inside. As she wandered through the halls, her hand accidentally pressed against the wall, and in the very next second, her vision went black. She collapsed on the spot. When she woke up, she was back in her own bed. Confused, she turned to her husband. "What happened?" she asked. "You must have had a nightmare." He said, "I came home and found you asleep the whole time." Lisa hesitated, but eventually brushed it off. Then the next day, something even stranger happened. She was cleaning a window when, suddenly, the wall behind her started moving. Slowly, it pressed toward her, trapping her between the glass and the wall. She could barely breathe. Then just as suddenly, the wall moved back. At first, she thought she was hallucinating, but when she looked at the glass, she saw traces of her foundation smeared on the surface. That was real, and it made her question everything. Was this life really hers? Was this even real? She felt deep down that she wasn't supposed to be living like this. She used to have dreams. She used to have a job, a purpose, but ever since she moved here, she couldn't remember any of it. And suddenly, it hit her. She had never once left this town, not even once. So she made a decision. She was going to leave and see what was really out there.